Hey guys, I'm Brendan McElhaney. I've been in real estate for over 7 years. I've run a wholesaling company for the last 2.5 years. And today I'm going to walk through how I closed a $100,000 deal right here in Chicago. If you're interested in wholesaling, real estate investing, or just want to learn how to close bigger deals, this video is for you. What I'm going to walk through today is 1, how we found the deal, 2, how we negotiated it, 3, how we found the buyer and how we got multiple offers on the deal, 4, how we added value to the seller. 5, I'm going to go through the full timeline and the numbers breakdown and show you the actual settlement statement and show you an accounting of the fees. And then 6, I'm going to share some of the lessons that I learned to help you close your next deal. So how we actually found the deal and the seller motivation. So this deal actually came in from a cold call that we made back in April of 2024. The seller was interested in selling, but at the time she had some medical challenges that prevented her from selling at the moment. So we actually stayed in touch with her. We reconnected a month later to check in, see how she was doing, and she was still not ready to sell. So we put her on a long-term follow-up just to keep in touch with her. We actually lost touch with her until October 2024, so close to 6 months later, where she was ready to sell at that time. We actually lost touch with her until October 2024. And one of the big takeaways that I had from this deal is that follow-up is key. If you have a database, if you have people that you've talked to in the past, try to stay in front of them every few months to check in, see if they're interested in selling. Because if not for us following up with this cold call, we would have potentially lost out on this super big deal. So the actual property itself, it was a true hoarder house. The couple was living separately because of some personal circumstances with family members. But the house had fallen into disrepair, true hoarder house. And when we walked in, there was things stacked to the ceilings. It was a perfect house for an investor to come in, clean it up, put a decent amount of rehab into it. It was in a great neighborhood in Chicago, and that's just what we were able to do. So next we negotiated the price. So we actually had sold a property in the area for $250,000 about 3 months prior. So we had a pretty good idea of what investors were willing to pay in that market, in that particular area of Chicago. With that being said, what I did was I actually did what's called a trial balloon, or I call it a trial balloon close, where basically you go to the seller and you say something along the lines of, hey, we actually had a property closed in the area for, and then just throw out a number, 180,000. And what this actually allows you to do is help gauge the seller's expectations without locking you into a number. So what we did is I did the trial balloon close, and I asked her, hey, we actually had a property closed in the area for 180,000. Does that seem reasonable to you, or does that seem like something you'd be interested in moving forward with? She said yes. So in terms of the actual negotiation, I came to her and I said, hey, I let her know that, hey, the property actually qualified for, and I actually came in lower than 180, and I offered her $157,000. She accepted. We got the contract signed, and then now it was finding the buyer. So in terms of finding buyers, what we typically do is a few different things. So 1, over the last few years, we've been able to build a cash buyers list of close to, I think it's up to 5,000 now, but at the time, I think it was closer to 3. So what we'll do is we'll blast it out to our buyers, 1. Number 2, we'll post it in various Facebook groups to get people who maybe aren't part of our buyers list or maybe aren't checking their emails when we send out deals. And then 3, we'll reach out to local agents to see if they have clients that might buy in the area. So we sent it out to our contacts. We sent it out to real estate Facebook groups, and we reached out to real estate agents who have done business in the area, especially looking at properties that needed rehab and seeing if those buyers are interested in this property as well. So what we did next is we had a number of different buyers come out to the property. So we set up a 1-day showing where we probably had, I'd say 15 to 18 people there, different investors, had them go through the house. And at the time, we had our asking price of $250,000. And we asked for highest and best we gave them, I think, 2 days, 3 days later. So at this point, we had received 8 different offers ranging all the way from $220,000 to $278,000. So obviously what we were able to do is get that locked up for $278,000 and proceed to closing. Now, one thing I want to touch on is obviously this was a great deal for us and we were able to make a lot of money, but as importantly, what we always aim to do when we work with people is go above and beyond for the seller. So for the seller, they had lived there for over 40 years and this was a very emotional sale for them. We were able to basically handle everything for them. So we helped with packing and moving their things to storage. We managed the entire process for them to reduce stress. And really at the time, the family was going through some family challenges, and it was very emotional for both the husband and wife to sell this home. There were a lot of memories involved. And what we can do as investors is treat people with dignity and make sure that although this is an emotional process, that you give them time and you give them space to be able to handle those emotions. So as we were helping the gentleman move out, we were able to give him some space, provide him some comfort during this emotional process for him. So the way I think about this is it's not just about money, but it's about solving problems. And when you're able to solve problems for people, the end result of that will be money. So if you put the problem solving first and you go out to actually help people, that will come back to you in the form of profit. So I want to go through the timeline and numbers breakdown for you. So our first contact was April 9, 2024. A month later, we just checked in, they still weren't ready to sell. And then we finally reconnected October 30th. Then we made the offer the same day. We had the contract signed November 9th. During the next 2.5 months, we worked with the sellers to pack things up, take them to storage, get the storage unit for them. We were able to take a lot of family and personal belongings to the storage unit. We were able to help them get situated. And then we were able to close January 31st of 2025. So the final details were we purchased this for $157,000. We sold this to an investor for $278,000. So gross profit would be $121,000. With that being said, we actually double closed this as to basically protect what we were buying it from and not let either side know what the numbers look like. When you have spreads this large, there's sometimes negative feelings from one side or the other on why we're making so much. So we decided to double close this. And when we double closed this, we actually used an investor in our network to come with the purchase price of the property. So what we did is we borrowed, I think, $165,000, which covered the purchase price, closing costs, and then we paid them 1.5 points. And then on the second transaction, the B2C, they were able to recoup all that money. So the expenses, and I'll walk through this with the settlement statement as well.
All right, so walking through the A to B contract for this property. So we had a sale price of $157,645. We got a loan for $165. County taxes, debits, and credits. We paid 1.5 points to our lender and doc prep fee. Then we had all the title charges, all on our side, the buyer. We had all the transfer taxes, stamps on our side. We had all the miscellaneous attorney fees, water bill, zoning, survey. And then with the 165 loan, you'll see that we actually got back $3,000. So we took out a little more money than we needed. So we got $3,000 at close, and that's the total for the A to B. So, all right, so this is the B2C contract. So we sold it for $278. You'll see on the buyer side, basically loan amounts $363. You'll see county taxes on his end. You'll see construction holdback on his end. You'll see all the title charges for the buyer. You'll see all the recording fees for the buyer. You'll see our mortgage payoff to our lender for $165 plus interest. This actually shouldn't be here, but we found it later and just said, keep the extra $165 for dinner. We have our attorney fee, their attorney fee, survey, and then funds held back just for a TI until we actually got the real water bill. So you'll see due to seller on our end, $103,931 plus the other $3,000 that we had gotten on the front end transaction, and the buyer had a loan for 450, or sorry, he had a loan for 378. He brought 70K to the table, and the back end value on this, depending on how he fixes it up, is probably going to be somewhere between 650 and 700. So he'll have a pretty good spread as well, being all in for about 450, then holding costs, that sort of thing, and then being out about, 650 or so.
So in terms of this transaction and lessons learned, what I would say is one of the biggest lessons I can take away from this is like follow-up is the key, not to any transaction, but to most transactions, whether following up on offers, following up on conversations. Like speed is one of the most important things in terms of getting a transaction across the finish line. You have to act with a sense of urgency. And actually in this deal, this wasn't a great example of us acting with urgency. We almost went 6 months to reconnect with this person, and part of that is timing and following up and being in the right place at the right time. But just as easily, someone could have came in and got this deal and we would have never known. So there's probably a ton of deals like that in our database, in your database, or if you're just getting started, there's a ton of deals where follow-up will get you the deal. So make sure you make that a priority. Two, I would say one of the things is just being able to add massive value to buyers besides just the offer. You need to be able to help them with whatever pain they're dealing with. And it doesn't even need to be a divorce or inherited property. Sometimes people just are going through a negative experience in their lives, and that house may represent that. So what I would recommend doing is finding how you can help support this person through selling their home. So sometimes that shows itself in cleaning out a house for someone, or grabbing family heirlooms for them, or having a quick close because there was a death in the family and they don't want to go back to the house. So there are a number of different ways to add value to sellers, and that should always be at the forefront of what you do. So another takeaway there is that emotional problems often outweigh financial ones for sellers. So again, if you can solve that emotional pain that they're dealing with, then the financial side becomes negotiable. People will do anything to stop emotional pain, even if that means taking a financial loss or maybe selling for less than what they could sell on the open market. And this is why people do this every single day. The last thing I would say is on the dispo side, when you do have a property, you want to get at least 3 buyers or 3 offers from buyers. This will help you maximize your profit on any wholesale and actually push prices up, because at the end of the day, there's 2 sides to a transaction, right? It's the buyers trying to negotiate you down and you as the seller trying to negotiate a higher price. And the way you negotiate a higher price is to be able to have leverage. And when someone comes with a low offer, and we do this all the time, and this happens almost all the time, is a buyer will come in and say, hey, I'll offer you, for example, I'll offer you 220. And when you can go back to them and say, hey, I appreciate the offer, but we have 4 other offers or 2 other offers above that, so it sounds like you won't be a good fit for this one. All of a sudden, they can find an extra $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 that they otherwise wouldn't have. So you always want to put yourself in a position of power as a wholesaler, as a seller, just in general, whether you're wholesaling or you're a real estate agent. You want to be able to go back and just sometimes tell people, no, that won't work. And while you appreciate it, they may not be the right fit. And a lot of times they come back and they're able to revise their offer. So if you found this helpful, make sure to like, subscribe, comment below with your biggest takeaway. I'll post videos like this regularly to help other wholesalers, real estate investors crush their goals. See you in the next one.